having such a historical property with such enormous value in its richness to the history of the United States and the people who were the circle of friends to Richard Watson Gilder and Helena Decay, that came to FourBrooks and really made impacts in so many of our developments in our culture during the Gilded Age and on into the next century. So Reese and I have talked with Walter, and we've spent the past 2.5 years trying to analyze and figure what to do with all the historical documents in the house, and reading most of the letters and the transcripts, the diaries, the journals. We spent a lot of time analyzing their value and realized that this story needs to be put in the historical archives for the younger generations to understand the value of what's transpired here. And so we've been working diligently for the past 2.5 years on a tremendous project with over 2,000 or 3,000 documents. And Reese is going to talk a little bit about the upheaval and the process that this 2.5 years has been about in where we are now.
Well, there's been, various opinions. I think the family, certain members of the family want to get the place at a very cheap price and keep it kind of as a place for all family to get together, sort of a communal setup. And we both feel that it's important to have it a museum and to keep the history, and it would be a place for music to continue the sort of tradition that was at Roz's barn that I talked about earlier, and where they had music and art and things like that, and it'd be a place of healing for people to come. And anyway, there's been a lot of strong feelings of not doing that, and they want to sort of have it as a place where people just kind of use it for partying and things like that. And it sort of created a lot of hard feelings with certain family members, and this would put an end to all this sort of envy and problems about the place. And I think it would be a constructive thing. My father worked hard to keep the place, and he spent a lot of time and money, and it was he did the best he could, and so we want to put it in his honor, the work that he did to keep it in the family and to keep it going. And I think if it was a museum, it would be a place where people could come and remember the history of it and throughout. And I think that it really makes a lot of sense to do that.
So to that end, Teresa and I have worked very hard over the last 2.5 years to preserve the family documents and the art and history, the rich history that's still being held at FourBrooks and the archival things, and have been working very closely with a group of board of directors that we've established from all over the country to now have a nonprofit. And we named it in honor of Gilder Palmer, Reese's dad, and we called it the Gilder Palmer Sanctuary. And that unified the Gilder family and the Palmer family, which Reese's dad did in marrying Francesca, and with Francesca being his mother and marrying Anne Palmer. That brought a unity because she previously was married to his dad's cousin, who was also one of Richard Watson Gilder's grandchildren, who died in World War II and had 2 young children. They are heirs to the Tiffany family, and it's George Gilder and Comfort Tiffany Gilder. And so now the separation between Reese and his half siblings has been unified under the Gilder Palmer Sanctuary. I think it's been a healing process to bring everyone together again under the same history, and realize that unified together, we can be stronger than being torn apart by each other. And this has been a real healing process for Reese and I as well, to see how well we work together to accomplish this. We now are working with the Heritage Auction House to auction a number of the family memorabilia, which have been given to Reese and I and Walter, and hopefully to bring some of the money from that into this project. I've put a substantial amount of money already into the restoration of FourBrooks property in hopes that this can be handed off in a museum project, to then be one of the most valuable museums in the country, I believe. Richard Watson Gilder and Helena Decay's 3 other homes, of which 2 survive, are museums on their own. But I think their time here at FourBrooks was so valuable and such an instrumental part of their lives, with the documents that live within the house and the history of the family and the family dynamics. It's something that needs to be preserved in a way that will show the human side of our history in art and literature, in success stories, in marriage. And so that's what we are hoping to do. It has not been an easy process.
There's a lot of divisions, and the whole idea of the museum is to bring togetherness, bring people together, and I think this would be a way. It'd be beneficial of all family members. They can come and see the history of their background and what was done there, and this work of Richard Watson Gilder, and when he was in the Century, when he started the Century, and this is his place he came in the summer, and this really would be a great conclusion to this.
I think so as well, and I think Reese and I and Walter sat for many long hours and discussed the different possibilities for this property, and because of the extensive debt and the absolute need for restoration, that it's our heart hope that this becomes a working museum. There are many people who've worked hard on this project that are trying to make it go, and I think it will be a benefit to world history as well as the United States history. Richard Watson Gilder and Helena Decay sit in most of the major archives around the world. They are also in the Smithsonian and the Metropolitan. Today we're hoping to preserve the real human side of their lives in their own words, in their letters and diaries and journals, and that's what we're hoping to accomplish with this last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And I think we're doing it.
Yeah,
so let's hope we can get some funding, and we're looking for backers now and supporters and investors to help make this project work.
Anybody wants to contribute, this would be great, and to the FourBrooks, we have a website, FourBrooksFarm.org, and it's a place where you can donate money for this project. Anyway, that's.
Yep, and we are now hoping to bring to the forefront Helena Decay Gilder's attributes and her tribute to her husband's, not only his career, but her own art and how she pursued her artwork and then took a background to become a mother and a supportive wife, but for also to push forward other women's careers such as Cecilia Bow and Mary Hallett Foote and on, Emma Lazarus and so on. These are women who became great in their own right, and I think Helena took a step back behind the camera to do her art and judge herself and her own value in the art world, and why she contributed an enormous amount of energy and time to her husband's career in designing his book covers and gilding his books and building their dynasty. That I think the recognition she always hoped for never came to fruition. And with this generation of revealing her art and the projects that she worked on so diligently and that meant so much to her, we're hoping that this is going to be a revealing of the woman behind the pencil and the brush. So